Hi, I'm comic book artist Dean Rankine, and this is the Halftone Effect.
Welcome to another adventure of the Halftone Effect.
Save us!
Oh no!
We're back. We've got a new season. We've got a heap of new guests coming on, which I'm really excited about. Tonight's guest is none other but Dean Rankine. Dean, thank you for joining in tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. It's good to be here. Well, when I say I'm actually sitting in my studio and I'm not there at all, but it's good to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for coming on. For anyone that's familiar with Dean's work, he's worked on The Simpsons, Futurama, Invader Zim, Hellboy, Underoos, Oggy and the Cockroaches, and most recently, Timmy the Ticked Off Pony. Dean, that's just a slew of comic books and books that you've worked on. It's incredible. You've also done some of your own stuff as well. Itty Bitty Bunnies, which is one of my personal favourites in the indie comic book world. Be Batman, which is a fantastic read. And most recently, My Dad is an Animal.
Yes, yeah. It was a So that's just a picture book, and I had the idea ages ago, and I floated it around to a few publishers, and they all said no. So I decided to self-publish it this year, and I did. And it's great. It's nice to be out there. It's better to be out in a physical book than sitting on my hard drive.
Absolutely, and you're a go-getter, man. You're constantly pumping out stuff. It's an inspiration to see that. Like, there's other guys out there that are just absolutely smashing it out there, and you've got so much under your belt, and it's fantastic to see.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm always sort of hustling for work as well. So I kind of consider it to be the hustle and grind. Like I'm constantly hustling for my next gig, and then working as hard as I can when I'm doing it. And yeah. So it's been a long journey. I was always hoping that it would be like magically snowball into me just like getting work out of the blue, but it just doesn't seem that way. It never worked out that way for me. I've always had to just push myself constantly to get work, and it's a long process.
It's the classic underdog story. Slog it out, work hard, and eventually it'll pay off.
That's the hope. Exactly right. So it's interesting because when I have you sort of list my credits, you go, oh, that sounds pretty cool. But then it doesn't necessarily then translate into other work, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm always having to push it.
But you're an inspiration to the comic book community. I know that personally. You consistently work hard, and it inspires myself and other comic book artists alike to see what you're doing and what you've achieved. It's inspiration to want to achieve that kind of recognition and the work that you put out.
Thanks. Yeah, no, that's lovely. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
So we're going to wind the clock back. And it's an origin story about where it all started for you, Dean. What was it as a child growing up? What was it that got you inspired to want to jump in and start illustrating and become an artist?
Yeah, I was always a weird kid that I grew to a weird man, but I was always sort of super shy. I talked funny, and by sort of drawing was how I expressed myself in so many ways. I always loved kind of escapist genres, and I would love Saturday morning cartoons and reading comic strips and comic books and all that kind of stuff. I grew up on the place called Rye on the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. It's like a beach town. And
Really?
Yeah. So at the time in the 1970s, because that's how old I am, you're kind of to be cool, you kind of had to play footy or surf, and I didn't do any of those things, or I didn't do any of those things well. And I always considered myself to be a bit of an outsider, an outcast. And I think that's, excuse the pun, but that's what drew me to comic books and art as a kind of thing. And I always knew I wanted to draw. And from a really, really early age, it wasn't like I never thought I'd be a policeman or a fireman. I wanted to draw. And I didn't really know exactly how that would pan out, but in some ways I've kind of just done a little bit of everything in some ways. But yeah, it's been a really good journey. It's been I guess it's how do I describe it? It's it didn't magically happen. I during primary school or during high school, I did a TAFE course for 2 years in art and design, and I don't think I learned anything when I was there. Uh,
You don't? No.
and I kind of from then I started freelancing like in the 1990s. But if I was purely relying on that, I would have starved to death, to be honest. And so I've always had day jobs and different degrees. And there was like a time, I think it was, a couple of years that I hardly drew at all. I kind of fell into youth work and community work. And I've done that alongside of my artwork for many years now. And so in some ways, I kind of feel like I'm having to catch up at the same time. So even now, I have a 12-hour a week job as a outreach needle and syringe program worker, and I've
Oh
done
wow.
20 years. So that kind of, at least there's something that's coming in to help pay the bills, because freelance work is so hit and miss. And it's interesting because you almost like we don't talk about that part of ourselves. I think when particularly, I say if you're a guest at a convention or something like that, you really need to talk up your credits. And it's pretty rare that we go, "Oh, I've got a part-time job," because it feels like you're, I don't know, like misleading or you didn't quite make it. But I can't, in some ways, imagine ever giving that part-time job up. My wife works, I work, those 3 evenings a week, as well as during the day and on weekends, trying to draw.
Yep.
But again, it's like, man, I've got to be a grown-up at some stage, and I've got things to, if I was purely relying on artwork, yeah, I'd struggle.
Yeah, and it is. I feel you there, man, because I've been through a battle over the last 5 years of a similar, going and studying, and then you get out and you've got it's hard. Like you're in a market where it's a dog eat dog basically,
It's really hard. Yeah.
and I personally have finally found my feet at a design agency,
Mm.
but to get there was a slog and it was a lot of stress. But when you say that, it's like there are a lot of stories that are very similar in our community that they've worked or they're still working to get to that point, and it can be a roller coaster of emotions.
Absolutely. And also, I think we often don't talk about like the partners of artists as well who are working. That's kind of
Yep.
the thing that's not really spoken about in the artistic community, but often we've got partners who are they're working full time, and it's their wages which are kind of the steady income coming in. I'm not saying I don't get paid, but it's often like here and there, and it's really hard to budget in that way. So yeah, I don't know. It's always like I don't know. It's like the hidden side of it that we don't really want to talk about because we come off as failures. And but I do worry about it. I worry about the kind of the impression or the what it suggests to up and coming illustrators
Hmm.
who I mean, I want to be here, but I can't get there, and it's really frustrating. And they like, it'd be awful if they feel like they're failing because they're not working all the time in illustration. But
Yeah.
and it's the arts. It's a shit
It is,
show.
and it's not in comic books alone. It's the whole medium of art as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It really is. I think I think it's a meme where it's like an iceberg, and there's the tip of the iceberg that everyone sees, and there's just that culmination of all the other work that goes into what we do to get that final, whether it be a comic book or an artwork out, that no one sees, the late nights and the hustle to get the job in the beginning and to commission it out there. It's just
Yeah, exactly right. That's right. And I can't remember the last time I had a day off. Like I'll work weekends, and I'm working on a couple like kind of large projects at the moment, and you just got to keep plugging away. And often, I don't know, you get treated like shit as an illustrator. Sometimes it's like I don't know.
it is. I can feel you there, man. It is a kick in the teeth sometimes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a kick in the teeth. But we do it for the love of it all. So there is a love and a passion for doing it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I don't want to sort of be the Debbie Downer, but and I cannot fathom doing anything else. I can't imagine the idea of not drawing would just be devastating for me. I think that yeah, I don't think I could do it. And in some ways, I always feel bad because I've kind of like sacrificed my wife and kids on the altar of illustration because I can't imagine doing anything. I'm happy to
Yeah.
work part time to contribute to the family's income, but to not draw would just be devastating for me.
Yeah, it is, and it also, friendships and all that. And I think that's what the great thing about conventions are, that you have a camaraderie with the people that you do conventions with. They're kind of your mini family away.
Yeah, absolutely. Like last year, I mean, obviously not this year because this year's going to shit, but last year I did, I think it was 15 conventions. And I certainly see some of the like other comic book creators more than I do, my family members in some ways. And I'm really missing that this year because particularly where I am in Melbourne, we're in lockdown, so we're
Yep.
stuck home and yeah, that's been a little bit devastating. Really sad to see as well. But so yeah, I love the conventions. Also, it's really nice. I feel like I get to be like famous for a day, and that's
Exactly, yeah.
that's really nice. You go, you're at your table and people are buying your shit and you're signing autographs and people saying really nice things to you, and then you go back to your sad old life of taking the garbage out on Monday nights and those, so yeah, I do miss that.
It is, and this year's a write-off. I think is there's no way we're doing conventions this year, but
Yeah, no, I just can't imagine. There's still
I
so cool.
I think that when we come back, hopefully next year, it'll be bigger and better than ever. It'll be like seeing your long lost love.
Yeah, yeah. I just actually did see one of the anime festivals. They've cancelled their one for 2021. I thought, wow, shit, that's
Oh, really?
Phew. Yeah, yeah. So maybe we'll have to be like 2022 that we'll be seeing our lost loved ones again.
My God, it'll be I can't even put a knowledge to it. It'll be something like getting water in the desert.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's exactly.
That's the best way to put it. Yeah, it definitely is. It's hard being away from it all. At the same time, I think personally, I found it. I've decided that to go crazy and just keep making as much as I can. And I find that it's actually it has been good to stop, but it gets to that point. It's like, yeah, I'm ready to go back now. It's like when you're a child and you have school holidays. There's only so much you can do,
You can do, yeah.
and you're like, let's go back to school.
Exactly.
But yeah, it definitely is a very different year, and it is hard being away from friends and family when you do the convention circuit. But the reward of getting to see people and meet them and people who enjoy your art, that must be a real thrill. You've been doing it for a while now, Dean.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember the first. I do remember the first convention I went to. It was Supernova in Sydney. I'd heard about it and I flew up just for the day.
Yeah, okay.
And it was funny, I was saying before about feeling like an outcast or an outsider. My first convention, going to there was like, oh wow, these are my people. I love that you can feel free to geek out and not be normal. It's okay to be whatever into whatever you're into. So I'm just trying to think how long I've been doing the conventions for. Maybe
Yeah, wow.
10 years, I guess. I think so. Obviously, so yeah, Simpsons
Yep.
was the big one. And that was just over 10 years ago. I started working on that. So from about then, I started like getting guest spots at conventions, and yeah, so that's been really cool.
Yeah, I mean it's so funny. Like you look at the convention circuit from 2010, even like prior to that 2007, 8 when I started going, and the Australian. I never really knew of an Australian audience of comic book creators, and to see that it was amazing. And now it's just it's a whole other thing. Like there's a massive amount of creators out there, and they're all working full-time jobs or part-time jobs to, you know, make ends meet, but they're also creating comics, which it's a real buzz to see that. And then it kind of, that's what inspires more and more people to join into the culture of making their own comics. For you, and I guess with Itty Bitty Bunnies, that was really your first independent title.
Look, I had sort of self-published bits and pieces before then. And so I wouldn't say necessarily it's my first one, but it was what I wanted with the bunnies was that I wanted a couple of things. I wanted to get US distribution, and I wanted to go through Diamond, and I wanted a US company, and so I got that. And so in some ways it was I got what I asked for. In some ways it was a success, in some way it was a big failure. But I do love the characters. So that was published through Action Lab. I did ask them to try and if I could get the copyright back, but I haven't heard back. So I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, okay. Oh, I love it. I think it's, you know, it's so tongue in cheek. It's definitely adult based.
Oh yeah, if anyone's listening and they don't know it, so it's about two naked drug using bunny rabbits. So it's not for kids, and lots of drug use, and really over the top humor. For it to be picked up was, you know, in some ways amazing. But I did love it. I really loved working on it. So yeah. So, you know, hopefully down the track they might get, you know, rehashed.
Fingers crossed. I'm hoping for it now. You've told me. It's got me excited. And I'm rooting for you, man. I hope you get it back.
Yeah. Yeah, but if they, you know, only if they say if they give it back, otherwise it'll be just.
If they don't, I'll write. I'll start a write.
Yeah.
Well, so you mentioned Itty Bitty Bunnies wasn't really your first indie title. What were you working on?
No, so this is the weird because this is my hidden my hidden shame was so I grew up in the church and I was a Christian for a really long time. So I did a bunch of Christian comics. I like on a website and I self-published them, and which it was just something, you know, it was a huge part of my life and who I was. This is going back a few years now. I'm just trying to think. A couple of decades. No, decade? I don't know, 15 years, something. But it's interesting then. So I lost my sort of religious belief, right? And so, which doesn't surprise anyone, and I'm glad I did. But I remember at the time it was so painful because, you know, you have this world view of like, okay, this is, you know, this is how the world is, and, you know, like we're the good guys, and it's really, you know, painful to go through this, you know, go, oh shit, we're not the good guys. We're not actually, you know, I didn't feel like, you know, suddenly, you know, that you go, well, if that's not true, what else isn't true? So that was, like emotionally awful. And again, I've come out on the other side, much happier, healthier mentally, in a much better place. But that process. So that was so this is interesting. Oh, well, I think it's interesting. So what happened? Like, so I was doing stuff with some like kids magazines for the newsagents, and
oh really?
So
Yep.
I was doing like sort of a Mania magazine and stuff like that. I did a lot for them, and but I was doing stuff for the Salvation Army Kids magazine, and then I had this like, you know, big crisis of faith. I thought, oh shit, I can't, like, I'm not, you know, I can't possibly be making comics about stuff that I don't believe in. And it wasn't long after that I've gone to, okay, well, I'm not getting any work at the moment through the supermarket things. I can't do that. So I went to my went to Coles in Dandenong to see what was there and to see what options were there for me. And I picked up a Simpsons comic. And it was so in some ways I had to lose my faith to draw the Simpsons. So how it was so that at that point, so I picked it up. I've told the story a zillion times, but here it is one more time really quickly. So I picked up this comic and it all looked great, but there was one page that was kind of off model. And I thought to myself that I could just about do as good as that. That I could, if I really pushed it, I could just about be as good as the worst of the Simpsons artists, right? So at the time, they were accepting online submissions, and I started to send my work in, and they got back to me really like maybe the first, second thing I sent through, they got back to me and said that they liked my work, and the rest is history. It's that. And from then, I kind of thought, oh God, this is such a great opportunity. And I do remember like the first one, they published the first one, and it's awful, by the way. It wasn't completely off model. People don't believe me when I say that, but it's really, really off model. And I don't understand why they started using me, but they did. And I remember the first one that came out, I thought, oh my God, this is fantastic. This is great. This is really cool. The Simpsons. And but I thought, oh, what if this is the only one I get? Because, there's no guarantee that, we talk about breaking and go, oh, you're breaking and go. Often, I had to, I don't know. I remember, succinctly remember being really concerned that this could be the only one I ever get. And what does that mean? Am I a failure if I don't have this on a regular basis, or I don't, get any more work? And that kind of always haunts me. And I find it interesting as well how we perceive a success. There are so much about what we do as creators. There's like we can work on our side of the street in some ways. Like, okay, well, we can practice our art, we can get better, we can, do sequential art, we can tell stories the best that we can. But on some level, we've always have to have someone on the other side of the fence who'll go, yeah, I like this person's art. Let's give them a go. And they take a risk on us, and that's completely out of our control. That part of that process is like, and you see, and it was very possible that I would have just kept going and try, I'm sure I would have kept drawing, but it's very possible that I would not have broken in or not have anything cool to have done, and it's purely reliant on the person on the other side saying, yeah.
Yeah. And that was your stepping stone into the larger world.
Yeah, I'll take a risk on this random person who's emailed me from Australia.
Yep.
And we'll start using their stuff. So, yeah, I think about that a lot. I think that's though I think a lot of us are a bit hard on ourselves when, ultimately there's only so much you can do. In saying that, I'm like really, really stubborn. I think that I draw okay. I think I'm better. So I'm better than average, right? But I'm not amazing. I'm not like David Garden, John Sommeriva, Nicholas Scott, Mark Ratz. I'm just not. I cannot draw that well. But for me, I think I'm just so fucking dogmatic and stubborn that I'll contact and like the Rick and Morty cover I did for Oni, I contacted them maybe 6 times prior to actually scoring any work from them. So it's not like, do you know what I mean? And I kind of think, some other people might go, oh, I sent an email and they never got back to me. Oh, well, that's it, And that's just hasn't been it's not how I operate. And I think so much, if you look at my work, if you want to call it a success, that's because I've been super stubborn and politely hassled over and over again.
And I think there's a certain amount to that, mate. You need to push and push and push and push, and
yeah, and it's I wish I didn't. I wish it was easier.
Yes,
because it's time.
Yep.
And,
oh yeah, definitely.
And I've had my birthday recently, so I'm 49, so I'm nearly 50, and oh my God, it'd be really nice to not have had to push so hard. But that's just been my experience. So it's kind of like the road that I've had to.
Yeah, look, I think you're underselling yourself there, because your art style I don't think you can compare it to John's.
No, look, no.
Any others, because your art style is so unique that you can pick it out in the crowd, and that's the great thing. Like, I know that I pick up when I picked up Hellboy and I've picked up Simpsons comics, that you can pick your style, and that's what
Oh
makes it.
God! And so much I wish you couldn't. People say that to me like conventions. No, they'll say, "Oh, like your Simpsons stuff, I could pick yours a mile away." And because for all these years I've been trying to be more and more on model because I desperately wanted to look like the Simpsons.
Yep.
And people go, "Oh God, yeah, I can tell yours a mile off." You go, "Oh shit."
My punk rock aesthesis tells me that you need to break the mold. You need to, and seeing what you do, it is what makes art so amazing. Is you can have the fundamentals of art, but then it's about tearing them down and rebuilding them for yourself, and that's what makes your style so fantastic to read. As most artists and people who are involved with comics, they're gravitated towards visual more so than a story. So I know that I always pick up a book not because of the story. Sometimes 10% of the time it's the story. 90% of the time it's the visuals that capture me. And I think I speak for a lot of other creators like that. So, Dean, you definitely you're up there with the other guys in the Australia scene.
No, please don't misunderstand. I'm not being falsely humble. Because I think so. Also, so much of, again, if you perceive what I do as success, is that I'm really aware of where I fit within the scheme. Like I'm not going to be working for Marvel. I'm not going to be drawing Spider-Man. That's the reality, right? It's not how I draw. And besides, I would really, really fucking love to draw Spider-Man, but it's just not my style. I just don't draw like that. I don't get a lot of joy out of drawing like that. But so what that means for me then, if by knowing my place means that I can be calculating in the publishers that I send my work to. I know that when I send stuff off, I'm not just like sending random stuff to some random publisher. I've seen what they produce, and I believe that deep down that I can fit within the mold of what they need. Any sort of young creators out there, that's what I would encourage people to do as well. If you've got, if you want to approach a publisher, fine, how do you draw? Do you actually fit in their mold or not? Because otherwise,
that's great advice, Dean, and that's a great summary of how to push yourself in the world of being an illustrator and artist. Yeah, I think it's very much you've got to be your own critic. We're our own worst critics, actually. To be fair, we'll tear ourselves down just as quickly once we've done something is rewarding, and I think is our own. It's a fault in what we do, but at the same time, it is rewarding to have those little wins like we do.
Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't be able to cope without it otherwise. I think it's you push, and then occasionally something nice happens. Isn't that nice? And it doesn't feel so bad after all.
Yeah, it is rewarding. It is fun. It's the fun of the whole creating process of it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, and ultimately, I've got this note that I wrote myself. Drawing makes me happy.
Yes.
Just as a reminder, because sometimes you go, I don't know, I might do something else, or I might, slack off a bit. It's the actual drawing part's great for my mental health, and it's really an important part of what I do. So, again, I don't want to do anything else.
That said, I would love to see you draw Spider-Man. I'd love your variation.
It would be shit.
It would be fantastic. I think that would be fantastic. Marvel. If anyone from Marvel's listening,
I'm sure there will be. Yeah. Hey, Marvel people, hook me up.
Hook Dean up. Give him an issue.
Take a shot. You know how they can be.
Look, an Elseworld story. It could be. It could be. It could be anything. Just give him a shot.
Give him a shot, man. Give him a shot.
I'm sure I'll buy 200 copies just to make sure that. But yeah, I think that's really cool. But that said, with do you find do you have creative burnout?
Not really. Look, I've just a couple of days ago, next to my drawing tablet, I've stacked up. There's about 5 art books, right, just next to it, and there so I can lean on it while I can draw, because I'm just like there. Like, I'm not reading them. I'm using it to lean on, because I'm currently working on the third Timmy book, Timmy the Ticked Off Pony, written by the wonderful Magda Zabansky.
Oh wow!
And so the second one comes out on the 1st of October, and yeah, I reckon I could knock out this book 3 in about 3 days to go. And they're big books. They're like 220 pages or something like that. So
I'm actually holding the first one in my hands right now.
Yeah, so
I read it with my daughter, and she loves it. So I mean, that's insane. So you've already finished number 2, and you're nearly finished number 3.
Nearly finished number 3. So and so
wow.
they're big. They're a lot of work. So as far to answer your question, do I get creative burnout? Kind of yes and no. I tend to, often I don't feel like drawing, and I've been having a few afternoon naps, I must admit, recently. But I want to get this in the can, and move on to whatever next thing comes along. Yeah, you have to kind of put the hours in. That's
100% right, mate. You really do need to put in the yards when you work on these kind of projects. What like?
Yeah, so even like you don't like how like that kind of like you got to wait for artistic inspiration to hit, and that's it's absolute bullshit.
It is. I couldn't agree with you more.
As you go, I've got to get up and I've got to draw, and I've got to get I don't know. I've been saying I have to ink 10 pages a day at the moment. And if I can hit the quota, I can be happy with myself that I'm getting through it. But yeah, it's got nothing. Even though you get up, you draw, and you've got to get done.
Yeah, it definitely is a grind, and you have to have a strong will to be able to drive yourself to get up and do that as well. It's
interesting. Yeah, so it's not really about how you feel. You don't go, oh, you must be, So it's not about feeling. Yeah, it's not about feling sad or happy or whatever. You just get up and you do it. And I feel like, anyone listening in, they must go, oh my God, this sounds awful. This guy hates what he does. But that's not true.
No, it's not.
So it's really about, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm leaping into the studio going, oh my God, I love my life. But what I do is I get this deep satisfaction to the core of my being with what I do. So that's I think in some ways, for me, that's more important than kind of an emotional veil. Oh, look how happy I am, and I'm skipping off to so it's not. I love what I do at the core and to the depth of my being, and that's not necessarily. I may not necessarily be demonstrable when it comes to my emotions about that.
Yes. Yeah, no, I hear you there, and it is definitely that mentality of, I think people think that it's always, happy la 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 la, but it's like, okay, we've got to get in, I've got to get this done, and you set yourself a goal, and you have to work, and recently, on social media, you've spoken about social media and switching it off, and the biggest thing I've found through this whole pandemic is turning off social media, and I find it actually breaks the cycle of scrolling on, whether it be Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, but it gets you in that zone where you've got no distractions of the outside world. You put music on, or you put a show on, a bit of noise in the background, and it gets you in the zone, and you're just working away. You're not thinking about what you're doing as such. Sure, you're thinking because you're obviously putting pen to paper and you need to make sure, but it's that mentality of like, I'm just going to get this done. And I think it's the end result that's more rewarding. It's like, sure, well, I'm only getting 2 pages done a day, but when you do 10, it's just like, holy hell.
It is nice to, it is very satisfying to have it finished
Yeah.
and done. And and for me right now, like this is I can almost taste the end of this project.
And it's such a rewarding feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really nice. I have to say, I can't. I'm not good when I don't have projects on. That does my head in. If I don't have any work on for whatever reason, I've been really fortunate recently. But it's like, it's not healthy for me.
No, and it does. I think it creates a creative rut when you haven't got that to doing it, and that having that consistency in what you're doing and wanting to push forward, it helps with the creative process.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Mal from Impact Comics in Canberra. You can find us online at impactcomics.com.au. You can find us on Instagram at Impact Comics. You can find us on Twitter at Impact Comics. We're on Facebook, Impact Comics Canberra. And I've just found you listening to the Halftone Effect.
Now I know you're a D&D fan and a player. So would you count that as a pastime, wouldn't you?
Yeah. It's about, besides drinking, it's about the only thing. Like, I watch TV occasionally, but it's about the only thing that I do kind of for fun, which I know, but that's not drawing. It's not writing or drawing. It's actually so that's probably not healthy again, but I love it. Like, it's about every fortnight, and sort of comic people and stuff that I know, and where it was used to run at my house, but now it's currently online. But it's a lot of fun.
Yes, I have seen the photos on social media, whether it be yourself, Chris, or Matt. They posted up, and it looks like so much fun.
Yeah, we have a good time. Yeah, it's ridiculous, but So my son and my wife play with as well, and that's really nice, and it's nice for particularly for my son. He's 12, and it's really nice to. I think it's just a great pastime.
It is. It's good just to switch off and play, and it's creative as well. You're getting to be creative and have fun.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that I don't have to be on for. Like, you have to. So even if I'm not drawing or for conventions or even just podcasts or I've been doing these little videos of drawing bad anime for Mad Men at the moment, and they're all fun, but you have to kind of be on.
Yes.
Nice to go. Yeah. If I'm quiet, that's cool.
Yeah.
If I'm I can engage as much as I want to engage, and normally I'm just doing stupid stuff.
Yep.
But it's really nice to go. Oh, I don't have to be on. I don't have to be pretending to be happy, or I don't have to pretend to be upbeat or whatever. I can just play my character and kill some ogres and shit. It's really nice.
Yeah, and you get to switch off, and it's a bit of fun with some friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I adore it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great to hear that you guys are still doing it through all this as well via Zoom and the World Wide Web.
Yeah. We're really fortunate. Chris McMillan is our DM, so it's been so great that, because to be a DM is a lot of work, and I'm always appreciative of how much effort he puts into and to keep it going. So he's been an integral part of that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool to hear, Dean. D&D is a great pastime. It's a great time to switch off and just have a bit of fun with some mates.
Oh, God. Yeah.
You're speaking briefly about doing some online conventions. You've featured on a few during this pandemic. How's that been in the sense of the way that we normally do it?
Well, the big thing is you don't make any money. So a couple of one of us for an appearance fee.
Yep.
And because what you would my experience at a convention, you're at your table.
Yep.
You might go off and do a couple of panels, which I actually quite like doing the panels.
Yeah.
Or works or whatever, and then the rest of the time you're doing commissions and you're selling books and comics and that type of thing. And but obviously if it's an online thing, you can't do that. And so, and it feels like very much a one-way street kind of thing. Like some of the things I've been doing, doing Dean's Doodles, where I make a story up with just squiggles.
Yep.
And I've been doing Dean Draws Badly. Dean Draws from Memory.
Yes.
Dean draws from memory.
Yep.
And so that's fun. So I take suggestions of characters and then I attempt to draw them from memory. And apparently I've got a really bad memory. And so that's kind of fun. So it's a nice look. That stuff is fun, but it's just not the same. And so because it just you kind of feel like you're just putting energy out and not receiving it. For me at conventions, I'm always kind of buzzing because I'm kind of on. I know I'm on. Like I have to, be engaging and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I'm being disingenuous. I'm still being me.
Yeah.
But it's a bigger version of me at conventions that you would see at home.
Yeah. It's positive energy and all that.
You're a bit more bombastic and, you're mucking around, you play around. But I do get energized by that. By the end of conventions, I have to hide under a doona. I can't speak to anyone for the next couple of days. But I don't get that from the online experience. I just feel like I'm putting me out there but not receiving any kind of being like none of the energy comes back. I just feel wiped out. So it's a different experience.
It is. I know from speaking, I haven't done an online convention, but I know from doing Twitch that you do, the amplification of your energy comes out, but it is people behind a keyboard. And it's very hard to try and elevate the audience that way.
Yeah. Or you don't really know how you're being received. Yeah. You're just like, are you just throwing yourself out into the ether because people might be, watching, or they may not be pressing like, they may not be commenting, so you can feel a bit, I don't know, you're just like, is anyone there at all? You're just sort of shouting out.
Almost like an episode of Black Mirror.
It's like an episode of Black
Mirror. I can understand that completely. I watched over the weekend with the Kapow comics convention they did, and it was very well orchestrated, but there was that it doesn't feel the convention vibe that I know and love.
No, it's not this. It's just not the same.
Even if we're hungover when we do conventions, we still bring our A game. Which you and I both know that you've got to bring your A game even if you are hungover.
Yes, exactly. There was this really cool quote that I saw recently. Is it Joel Silver? Who was the director of Batman?
Joel Schumacher.
Joel Schumacher. And this I should never ever do this. I should never try and quote things that I've never. But it was Mini Driver was talking about him, and someone was bagging Mini Driver out, and so then Joel Schumacher looks up from his newspaper or whatever he's reading and says to him, no one ever paid for Under the Top. And I actually find that was sort of really encouraging. And I can be a dickhead online, and I can be completely outrageous at conventions. But I remember that because when you don't want people just to be up at a panel going, I draw pictures and my life is really hard, and you actually want you want people with passion. Yes. And that's you're not that's why you bought the ticket to go to a convention, to see people and go more outrageous the better, in my opinion. So I just find I found that quote sort of really encouraging, because I can be a little bit over the top, and it's nice to go, okay, that's not such a bad thing sometimes.
But that's great. In a podcast, I've said it since day dot, since I've been doing this podcast, that the biggest thing with conventions is you have to have that connection to the audience walking past, whether it's a simple hello, whether it's a nod of the head, but you have to be aware of what's coming past. Now, in the situation of doing commissions, you power out so many commissions, but you still have that attentiveness to integrate with the audience that are surrounding you whilst you're doing your illustrations for commission.
It's kind of I always consider it to be almost like performance art, because
exactly. Yep.
So for people don't, at conventions I draw people like they're a Simpsons character.
Yeah.
But what I do is, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but what I do is I draw flat. The other creators will have a thing, and they'll kills my neck.
Yep.
The reason I draw flat is so when people can kind of crowd around and watch it get done. And so what happens, even if I don't have any other commissions, people will go, oh shit, I would like that, that, or even just go, oh, I just want to watch.
Yes. Yeah.
And so at a convention when I'm there, generally speaking, not all, it always looks like I'm super popular because I've got people crowding around. But in some ways, like I always have to have at least one person in front of me that I'm drawing.
Yeah.
And they have to be there. They can't go off. I need to be, they have to be there.
Yeah.
So when you've got someone at your table, kind of 20, like right from the start, then it looks like other people kind of go, oh shit, something cool must be going on here, and I'll be a part of it. So I only do those commissions at conventions. So I've always wanted to go, look, this is something special. If you want this, see me at a convention, and also that says to a convention people, oh, this guy he actually brings his own audience.
It's very interesting you say that. You've kind of just made me realize, whilst at conventions, why I always tell people to flip through the comics or flip through my folio, because it's a market. It's such a niche, but it's such a very thought out marketing aspect of it that you draw people around.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm always saying to people, if say if I'm drawing away, if someone's like looking at touch my web, feel free to like flick through. Because sometimes they might look and they might come back a buy. Even if they don't buy anything, it's like you're part of the whole experience of them being at a convention. Like it may not necessarily be like I may not specifically make money from that person, but they're like, oh, could I take a photo with you? And and then it's like, I had such a good time at Supernova or Comic Con or even some of the original ones, and I met this guy, and it's like you're the ambassador of that convention that you're there, and I take that really seriously. And I don't kind of cruise Artist Alley as much as I used to because I always felt pressured to buy shit that I didn't want to buy. But I've gone past tables and people look like they're just deaf. Like they kind of sending this energy out that you don't want to go anywhere near them because they're having such a horrible time. It is hard because I've had tables in Artist Alley years ago and didn't sell shit. And so I know how that feels, but I guess if you're at a convention, I just think be aware of what you're putting out to people when they go past. It's nothing to say hi. If they don't want to look at your comic, that's fine. They don't have to.
Look, you're talking to a guy that created fucking Talking Bread. I mean, I was able to sell copies of those. I mean, it can be done. You've just got to have that. You just got to have that pizzazz, I guess, about it to
absolutely.
To get.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I mean, you're selling. You have to be like you're kind of on shows. So I think it's about in that environment finding. Again, where do you fit? What is your thing? Okay, well, I know what my thing is at a convention. I know what I'm doing. I'm doing it on purpose. And look, 99.9% of the time, I'm having a good time. I might be hungover, but generally, I'm having a good time at a convention because, I like it.
And actually, going to a convention with a hangover and then seeing the audience and talking to the audience, it picks you up. Like it gets you out of it.
Yeah. Normally it's about 3:00 on the Sunday because what happens because I'm a guest.
Go ahead, do it.
I'm not showboating.
You've earned it.
Or the humble brag, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm a guest, I get to go to the VIP party and you get to drink for free. So you kind of you're there with like the famous people, which is really cool, and you have free drinks. So I love doing that, and I will often overindulge and feel like shit the next day. And but I've never missed a Sunday. Still get out of bed, still draw my commissions. Some of the lines might be a bit shaky.
Look, I haven't been doing it as much as you have, but the times that I've been at conventions and we've run into each other and we've spoken, and it's like, it was a big night, and you've always said yeah, and kind of nodded heads at the fact that we've both been hungover and we're working. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's dedication.
Yeah. I have a problem, but also I think that how I get so wound up. I am so overstimulated and exhausted at the same time that I find that if I can go get hammered that night, then I will sleep. If I otherwise I'm just completely wired. I'm not excusing my bad behaviour, but I do know that a certain amount of social anxiety I have. that it kind of that tends to remedy it a little bit. Then on like on the Monday I have to fly home, and you know that's you know I've over remedied by that stage, and and I'm just like, oh shit, I just want to like hide and not talk to anybody. So
it's the waves we ride. Through it.
Exactly.
And yeah, there is an anxiety. This isn't for everyone. There is an anxiety that comes with it. I can hear you there, definitely, that you've got to...
Yeah, I think, people think, drawing a commission at a convention is easy. They should give it a shot,
Do you know what? I don't know how you do it, man, because I actually loathe doing it. The pressure just tenses me up.
That's right. Drawing these lines, I'm particularly inking, and you go, oh, don't fuck this up, because they're there, and I've got, I can't screw it up because I've got someone booked in 15 minutes to start their commission. It's a thing. It's a thing, all right.
Oh, it is. It definitely is.
It's not for the faint-hearted.
A tip of my hat to you, sir, for doing that, though. I don't know. I don't know if I could do it at the rate that you do it at. But it is.
Yeah. I've had depends. I've had particularly the busy ones. By the end of it, I can't feel the left side of my body.
Oh, shit.
Can't see shit. And I'm like, oh my god, it's like Rocky. Come on, man, come on.
Yeah.
And I know that that's kind of coming. So it's but at the same time, this is what people want from me at convention. So you're going to put in the hard yards. So.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's it's a credit to your work that seeing at conventions, you might just quickly walk past, you got a table full, and to see you there just hustling, and you've got the crowd, and they're excited about what you're doing. And prior to that, I've seen you on a few panels as well, and you're right in what you say, going back to the beginning, that they only see one side, but it's, I guess the great thing about a panel is that it's free marketing, but you're projecting your work out to a younger audience that very well might want to do it, and it creates a new artist later on down the track for the next generation.
Yeah, which is incredible privilege, isn't it, in some ways?
Yeah, it's always fun. It's a great thing at conventions. You have parents come up to you and they'll ask, "Oh, my child, does drawings and wants to get involved in it." And it's like, what advice? I'm like, just keep practicing. Just keep practicing.
Yeah, it's the awful advice that there's no magic bullet.
No, they're not. And even when you've made it, you still got to practice.
Yeah, exactly right. Look at us.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say I've made it. I'm just shooting. What's it? What they say? I'm pissing in the wind, as they say. But yeah, it's a credit to your work, Dean. You've done an amazing. You've got an amazing career, and I know you've talked about tonight. The highs and the lows of it, but you definitely have an amazing career, and to do what you've done in the time that you've done it, so it's really cool. It's really cool to see.
Thanks. Yeah, look, I think when I look, I want to be able to look back at my life, and when I, on my deathbed or whatever, that's go, I gave it a red hot shot, and I think I did.
And you did.
I gave it a red hot shot.
Yeah, it is. You definitely have. And then, like I said at the start again, it's you're an inspiration to a lot of the other artists in the community that I know, that I talk to, and the work that you've done, and how you're getting onto just doing what you're doing in the bigger name industry, like what you've rattled off. Futurama, Simpsons, Hellboy, Invader Zim, Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty is the be all to end all at the moment, apparently. So it's awesome to see. But for the future, what do we got to see in the future? Can you give us any tidbits?
Yes. So look, tomorrow I'm hoping to hear on something big but we'll see. I can't. It's not like I'm trying to be coy. But what I'm really concerned about, if I say it and then it doesn't pan out, I look like a dickhead. So, so at the moment, waiting on something big. I'm finishing Timmy the Ticked Off Pony #3, and I'm working on Oggy and the Cockroaches. There's a one shot they're bringing out for 2020. Saying goodbye to 2020 one shot, and I'm working on that. So I've penciled, inks, and I'm coloring as well, and I wrote one of the stories for it, so that's a bit fun.
There you go, guys. Definitely keep an eye on that in the horizon. Dean, before we wrap up tonight, because I've taken enough of your time, and it's been amazing having you on, where can people find you on the World Wide Web?
Oh, yeah. So when I'm not trying to have a hiatus from social media, so Dean Rankine on Facebook. I'm on Instagram a little bit, and you should just forget my Twitter because it's there.
It's Twitter.
It's Twitter, and
It's Twitter.
I go on there and go, I just want to cut myself. So, so occasionally I'll post stuff, but yeah, it's better to if you want to keep in touch with what I'm doing. Facebook, I share all the cat videos as well, so that's fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's probably about the best thing to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is good, but definitely, guys, if you once we come from the new normal in 2021, fingers crossed, that if you're at a convention and Dean is there, go pick up his artwork. Go and pick up the comics he has. He has some of the Simpsons comics still available on his table too. I'm guessing you still got a few of those left.
They're starting to dwindle down, but I've still got a few there. So yeah,
guys, they are collector's items now. They are collector's items. So get Dean to sign it, and you never know what happens for all those comic collectors out there. Dean, once again, thank you for joining into the Halftone Effect. It's been a pleasure having you on. Hopefully we'll have you back in the future.
Cheers.
Guys, thank you for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure being back. We're going to have more episodes coming out shortly. Thanks again, and good night.